Welcome to episode
Hey.
to episode 14 of the Racket House podcast, where we discuss all things music and success in our fun corner of the world, helping to inspire, inform, educate, motivate, and keep hope alive for musicians, creatives, entrepreneurs, and anyone else who wants to grow their brand in the music or creative spaces. Today, I'm honored to welcome the DJ and production duo Don't Blink to the podcast. If you're a big fan and a loyal follower of Racket House and the Racket House podcast, you already know Oskar, who was on the last episode talking about his involvement with Songstats 1001 Tracklist. But now we are welcomed by his partner, Aleks, and they both hail from, Oskar hails from Germany, Aleks hails from Estonia, respectively, and they now call Bali home. So right now it's nighttime for me and morning for them. It's colder here, it's warmer there. It's great. These two have made a significant impact in the tech house scene. Since their formation in 2018, they've released over 50 tracks across prominent labels such as their own record label, Low Ceiling, Nervous Records, Repopulate Mars, Spinnin, Insomniac, and many more. Their debut album, The Statement, was released in 2023 and features 13 tracks that showcase their genre blending style and dedication to the dance floor. And they have a sound that blends elements of techno, indie dance, progressive, and afro house. And the tracks have garnered support from industry heavyweights like Tiësto, Armin van Buuren, and James Hype, plus hitting #1 on the coveted Beatport charts. Beyond their music, they're founders of the label Low Ceiling, which we'll talk about as well, which has hundreds of songs since 2019 and consistently pushes boundaries while delivering bombs to the dance floor. Let's dive into the minds behind the music. Please welcome Don't Blink to the Ragged House podcast.
Hey,
Thanks, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for being here. That's it's a mouthful, but I wanted to make sure to cover everything. You know, a lot of history in what I consider a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, of course. I mean, so for me, like one of the biggest things as I was like looking through, you know, the catalog of Low Ceiling, the catalog of Don't Blink. I mean, Low Ceiling has hundreds of releases, right? It's crazy. You know, you both produce music. You're both touring international DJs. You have ventures in the tech world. Like, who's your ghost producer?
Well, it's great to have the two of us, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so how do you delegate the work? I want to jump right into it, right? Like, how do you guys think about splitting up the production work, the touring, and then thinking about you know, the other involvement, the other things you're involved with?
Well, there's a lot. We need to unpack, I think, a couple of things first.
Sure.
So we started working together actually way before Don't Blink.
Okay.
And it's sort of we both had solo projects beforehand, and in a way, I think there was a special night in Ibiza. The whole trip was special. The whole trip was special, and that sort of cemented the thought of, hey, we should actually do something together. First, we really fell in love with like sort of a new sound, which is sort of like a Relentless type of tech house. That we started, and we essentially like created maybe the first 10 tracks, and then we're like, okay, we're onto something here. Let's start a new project together, and that's how Don't Blink started. And I think there was multiple reasons for this being the right choice, but primarily, as you said, there's a lot of hats you need to wear nowadays as a DJ, but as any artist. And you're no longer just a producer. You're also a social media manager. You're also your own booking agent. You're also your own management and your own record label and all of these things. So actually joining forces and working together has been extremely helpful in all of that, because you have double the output, you have double the input, and you also have a lot of feedback you can share, you know. Sometimes something that I love, Aleks is immediately like, nah, that sucks, you know. And the other way around, you know, it's really helpful, you know. So there's like two sort of firewalls going on at all times, and then whatever is the output is usually high quality. So that's what we're striving for.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you can divide and conquer really by having two people. I mean, sometimes collaborating with other people can be, you know, it can be a headache. I've dealt with it myself recently, actually. But when you find that perfect partner, you know, I was part of bands growing up, right? So like everybody kind of had their own part. But it wasn't nearly the same world we live in today. Social media didn't even exist, right? So thinking about how things have changed over the years and having that other person that you can sort of rely on, and you guys are generally, I mean, that was one of my questions, is like, you know, how you sort of, you know, come to decisions with certain things, right? Like, have you been working together long enough where it's like you can read each other's minds? You kind of know, like, you know, how you'd react to different things, or are there, you know, points of contention and friction sometimes where you're like really having to figure out, okay, like what makes the most sense for us as a whole, and as a brand?
Well, it's collaborative, right?
Yeah, well, we never had any like debates about the choices we're making upon music. It's always been kind of fluent, you know, in a way, and coherent. So that's like for, I don't know how many years we were working. And
10.
I can't remember any situation where we were like, it's either going to be this way or going to be that way. So it's always kind of finding not even a compromise, but something in between where we're both happy. It's never been like, okay, I will just go over that because, you know, Oskar is just like want to keep this element in the track or something. It's always been like, you know, easygoing process for us and enjoyable.
Yeah, I want to say it's also sort of a learning curve, because sometimes it's hard to tell someone that we like, let's say Aleks worked on a new sketch, and then it's hard to just say, actually, I don't really like it. You know, it's actually harder to say I don't like it than it is like, that's a banger. You know, if it's a banger, it's a banger, you know. But I had to get used to that a little bit too. And I think you are very receptive there with feedback anyway. So that we mention things quick, you know, it's not like, oh, let's keep working on it for another week. And then eventually it's just like, oh, actually the idea sucked, because that's a whole week down the drain. And when in reality, you could have just said at the beginning, or I could have just said at the beginning, actually, I don't really like it, right? So like that communication is pretty open, and there's no hard feelings there, right? It's just, and then usually we really value each other's feedback, you know? So if, you know, some tracks I believe in dear-heartedly, and Aleks is maybe a little bit meh on them, but then in the end, we're still going for it, and that's great. And that works the other way around as well. And ultimately that's really great, you know, and it helps making every track better. It helps putting out the right releases at the right time. It helps sending to the correct labels. It helps with creativity, sending each other music, surprising each other, doing back-to-backs with new tracks that we found. All of it goes a very long way, you know. Yeah,
that's great. I mean, the communication piece is super, super important. And, you know, it's just really nice having somebody there in your camp, you know, like helping you guys push things forward. And maybe that's why your output is so high, right? But, you know, working with so many artists, so many independent artists, so many solo artists too, it's like they kind of work in a vacuum. They don't necessarily have feedback loops. They don't necessarily have somebody that they can riff on stuff with. And it's really difficult. So I'm glad you guys found each other. I'm sure you're glad you found each other too. And I'd love to hear maybe the abridged version of the meeting in Ibiza story. I think that has piqued my interest already. Is there anything you can share from that meeting at all, or is that for
the origin story?
Time? Yeah.
Well, actually, so we met quite before that trip to Ibiza. So we actually met online, and I can tell my part of the story, and then Aleks can tell his. But basically, I started working at a studio and at a club in Shanghai in China, and that's like a very like high end venue at like the 24th floor with like a shark tank, and what was amazing. And it played like this sort of like exclusive house music, right? And cool. And sort of kind of, I guess back at that time, then we started calling it powerhouse. So it was like not big room, it was not future house, it was like house music, but with like a lot of energy and drive. And I was running a record label as well, not my own, but I was managing it. And as part of this, I was always searching for new music, and basically discovered Aleks, I think actually on SoundCloud. Basically, like he had a bunch of like super sick remixes for tracks. There was one for Fatboy Slim and a couple others, and I would always play them all the time. And then then basically we got in touch. I asked him for tracks for the label, and then we started working together more and more, right? And maybe you can talk about how you started out.
Well, I think we like going through this stories over and over with every interview, so I'm gonna keep it short. So back then I was also a resident DJ in a club in Estonia. It was like after hour club, so we'd start working after like 3 a.m. right till 12. So, and I was the only DJ there, so it's fun times for me. Yeah, so I worked there for 5 years, so I was playing like really long sets, and then at some point I wasn't producing by then, so I was like, well, I need some extra and tracks for a certain situation, like the ending the set after like 10 hours playing or somewhere in between. So I kind of want to have the like a tools for me, right? I wasn't thinking just start producing, but have something special that I can create. So this is how I get into music production, and from there I was just getting better, I guess, and start like putting out the music on the internet, and this is where some people discover me, and then then I get a message from Oskar, and then we start sharing each other's track, and then this is how the friendship began, and from there.
So Oskar was your fan. Oskar was your fan first.
100%. Yeah. And Aleks started helping me a lot with my previous project as well. He's a super talented engineer and producer. Yeah. And then so ultimately the crazy thing is that the same music that worked at this high-end exclusive house club in Shanghai was the same music that he was producing for this like basement underground club in Estonia, right? So basically then what happened is that I moved, or I planned to move from Shanghai to Bali. That was about 10 years ago, and I asked him if he wanted to come out, and he took a big chance there and jumped, and we basically started a studio here. I had a little studio in our house, pretty professional actually, and we started working together, but that was still on our own projects until basically a couple years in. We went to Ibiza together and sort of had a crazy night out where we're like,
okay.
Well,
I intentionally was trying not to ask the origin story question because of our last conversation, but I guess it just happened. So thank you guys for sharing, the story that you've probably shared a lot of times.
We kept it brief, that's all good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I like the crazy Ibiza stories because, I've been there and it's a fun time. But I think like taking those leaps is really, really important, right? Like Aleks, especially, it sounds like that was more of a bigger leap for you. Whereas Oskar, you kind of left your home country, a while back, and you were kind of doing the international thing. Was it Aleks? Was it something that was like scary and you didn't want to do, or you were just like ready to get out and try something new? Like, what was the feeling like at that point?
At that time, I think I just hit my button. I was jobless, and then it was really tough times for me. So, I wasn't. There was not even like a second thought on this. I was like, well, just let's do it. Yeah. Let's try things. And I was always want to dedicate myself to music, and that was the biggest chance. And so yeah, we took the opportunity. We met up here, and then it worked really great. And then till this day, everything just keep growing. I never look back on my times in Estonia, and it's great. Never been. We never planned to stay that long, so it's been like 8 years or something, right? So I was planning to come here maybe a month and then maybe come back to Estonia, and then maybe from there we're gonna do something. But we just keep extending this, and then there's no reason to go back. We find a home here.
Yeah, you live in paradise, man. Like, enjoy it, and like you have access to so many interesting places in the world that you guys have been playing out to, and.
But at the same time, you kind of feel a little bit disconnected here from the scene. So that's the other project we're facing. It's a good environment, but you still like outside the world. It makes it so hard to travel. Maybe there's going to be a different question about this, but we get some of the booking requests, but we just cannot just do one show in Europe. So we need to do a tour, and that makes it difficult to stay here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. I mean, for example, we were quite in touch with a lot of the artists that now recently blew up in the States, especially after the pandemic, and especially in our sound, the tech house world really
Hmm.
exploded, right?
Hmm.
And I sort of think just the locality of us being in Bali makes it difficult for us to just take a one-off gig somewhere, right? Like it
Hmm.
always has to be connected. It always has to make sense because it's impossible to take a 24-hour flight just to play one show, right? It's not feasible.
Yeah, I guess there are pros and cons, right? And you are literally on an island too. So how do you deal with
Yep.
that? Like, what's the strategy there? And you also mentioned too in the beginning, no, you're a team of two. Is that right? Like, there's no agent, there's no manager. You guys handle everything.
Yeah, primarily yes. We now have a little bit of help on the social media side. Shout out to Ty. He's been helping there with like posts and getting it across all platforms and sourcing content. And then also on the label side, we work together with Dennis, who's another artist, Dennis Beutler. He also released on Repopulate Mars. He's our label manager now for a bunch of years, and he's crushing it. Actually, Fab Massimo, he was also involved
Yeah.
with, at the especially earlier stages of low seeding. He's still involved, but his solo career is taking off quite a bit. So yeah, so there's help there, right? It's not like we're doing everything ourselves.
Sure.
But yeah.
I actually just discovered Fat Massimo. My buddy who I spend a lot of time hanging out with plays. He plays music of all kinds, and I'm always like Shazamming and like, what is this song? And so he came on my radar recently, and he's great. I love his sound. I noticed, yeah, you guys have him on the label and all that.
Yep.
Okay, so you got a little bit of outside help, but when it comes to requests or booking your own gigs and things like that, like, are you spending a lot of time doing outreach, or have you guys reached a point where you've built a great brand and a following and fans and people, you're in demand and people want to book you? How does that work?
Well, the booking side is sort of a double-edged sword. It's like on one side, we now have like a pretty strong network of like gigs that we played in the past, of just promoters that we gained their trust, and we're very, once we are in a place, we build very lasting relationships, and usually I think we crush it every time. So we're invited back, so that's a good sign. So we sort of like pretty frequently play in Thailand now with our friend Pasha from Holy Stone. We now kind of recurringly go back to Australia, which is pretty close by from here.
Yeah.
And now I think the first Argentina tour that we did earlier this year, I think we're also gonna go back there probably next year. So these are like good recurring things. But of course, like this opening new markets is sort of always like it's we need to make it worth it, right? So we're usually then chatting, seeing if there's some local agent that can help us, sourcing a couple more shows. Maybe we have like one bigger one, and then we try to see if there's other ones that we can like fill up the dates with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's not the easiest, and it certainly takes a bunch of like hustle to just like make sure it all happens. But
Mm-hmm.
it's very rewarding because once you're there, it all pays off, and everyone's excited for you to be there. Um, I want to say that like it's actually a kind of a tough situation for our music being like super I'd say popular amongst other DJs and artists, which is great. Like a lot of residents play our music, and it's awesome. I think we make music for the dance floor primarily. That's always been what we're doing, but it's sort of we need to start bridging the gap more from just being known by other professionals to actually also being known by more fans, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
starting to create this like other sort of fan base, which is just listeners, but those are then the people that buy the tickets, that buy the merchandise, that sell out a show. And that's, I think, the biggest difference between the headliners and just really talented producers. And I think we're on a good trajectory here to break into that more and more, and break out of just the professional fans, I would call it. But it's certainly, that's one of the biggest steps that you need to take as any producer, right, or as any new and
Yeah.
upcoming artist.
It is a really interesting dynamic in what we'll call the DJ world, right? Versus, the different types of artists I work with who are, rappers or rock musicians, or they're in bands or whatever it is. It's like the DJ world is one of those. I don't know if there's any other subgenre or sub part of the industry where you're making music and then other people are playing your music, right? Generally, if you're making music, you're the only one who's performing that, right? So it is a really interesting thing. And I can't tell you, like, one of the most common topics of conversation and what I do in my world is growing a fan base, right? Like it's I was going back and forth with an artist the other day who's just so frustrated that she can't find her fans. She can't find the people who want to listen to her music. And I didn't have a chance to really dive too deep into it. Like, does your music suck, you know? But can you share some of the tactics and, you know, things that have been working for you guys to get outside of just the DJ fan and into the real dance floor fan, if that's a good term for it?
Yeah, I think it's always the most important thing is to remember is that the music is not the product, that the music is just the advertising. I think I talked about this
Someone said that. Someone said that recently. Who was that?
You're gonna be remembered by saying this.
But it's really important.
That little clip from our last episode got a lot of
good attention. No,
yeah,
but it is really important to keep remembering this, because as long as you just put out music in like a faceless way, as long as it's just a name next to a track, people are not, you know, they don't feel that connection to you, right? So we're doing a lot for like our brand. I mean, it started with just us creating the brand Don't Blink and really brainstorming like the name, the label branding, the label name, you know, it's like because that's what people remember, right? They visualize the identity, and then of course I think it's also ultimately it's sort of a spiral that the more gigs you get, the more shows you play, the more people discover you, the more people talk fondly about you, you know, and then you hopefully get another big show off of that by creating or having more content, and then it keeps growing, right? So is your mic all right?
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to distract you. Yes, I think it is.
Amazing. Yeah, so I think it's you got to keep growing, right? You got to keep building up, and the more content you get, the more awesome clips you have of your music, then you get more labels reaching out to you, then you get more promoters reaching out, you know, it's but you got to keep pushing, right? Pretty proactively. Yeah.
And you have to be patient because it takes time. It's like going to the gym and watching like yourself in the mirror and see, is there something like get more and more. Obviously, it takes time, and then you're getting disappointed, but nothing is. And you can see that I'm really disappointed myself.
Well, it takes time, but, you know. You got to be patient with it. You know,
you just don't look in the mirror all the time. You know, you don't expect those results coming like immediately, and it's just little steps. You know, you might even not notice it, but maybe you just take a break and just watch in the mirror in the next month and you will see the results. So it's just
absolutely
don't do it don't expect things happen next day, you know. It's
and
just,
look at your stomach in the morning and not at night, because you know after a full night's of sleep you're a little skinnier, you know. It's
also discipline and all that stuff you have to do.
Yes. It's like I've used the gym analogy recently with an artist, and it was specifically it's just one of those things that social media is just a part of our lives now, and it's a tool, right? So it's not the make end all be all, but it can make, you know, it can help, right? And it you know, it's a mindset shift for an artist who is a true artist, beautiful musician, piano player, guitarist, singer, amazing music, had a lot of success. Toured with Bob Moses, was on an Apple Watch commercial, you know, like, but, you know, humbly understands that he took a hiatus and things changed, like 2 years, you know, and understands, has an awareness of social media being an important part of the process and part of his job. But really just getting that switch in his head to be like, okay, I have to put in the reps. I have to do this. And the gym analogy happened to hit with him too, right? So yeah, being a face, but it's more than being a face. It's a sum of parts, right? It's putting out music consistently. It's being a face in the place consistently. It's building your network. It's being out there live and performing, obviously capturing the footage too. Of all these things, you're obviously doing all these things, but like, has any one of them in particular really started to hit for you? Like, are you noticing an upward trend from any one specific thing by chance, or kind of how can you kind of summarize the upward trajectory?
Well, it goes in different ways, right? Like on the music side, it's sort of like one release builds up on the next. It's great having our own label as an outlet also to just fill up a release schedule, because it's usually tough. Signing music to other labels, which we've done plenty in the past, is super great, because you open yourself up to other fans and to other fan bases, and they help to promote and push. But then also there's just times when maybe there's no release, or the labels are busy, so you can't slot in. But of course we want to keep a consistency going as well for our fans, because for a long time releasing music was the primary way that we communicated actually with our fans and with other artists, because they were just every month or so they would receive a new track from us, right? And that's pretty awesome, and then you just know. And I think we have a high quality standard too, so people usually know when there's like a Don't Blink track that they're gonna click on it, right? And that's like a reputation that you have to build up with consistency, right? Because and then you have to have a sort of filter as well. It's good to have each other, where it's just like, let's only put out stuff that's really high quality and up there. Because if you distract from that, and I think there was a phase actually with Low Ceiling, there was a couple of years ago where we started signing too much music. We just try to keep filling up. We even started like another sub label just to keep filling up the schedules, and the quality sort of dropped a little bit. And it was actually our friend that mentioned to us, just like, hey, I'm no longer clicking on each of the Low Ceiling releases because I don't know if it's like good enough, for me to play. And that sort of like immediately hit, because I was like, okay, well, that's not a good sign. Like, I'd rather skip a couple of weeks of releases and then only put out really good stuff than trying to squeeze in tracks just for the sake of having a release that Friday. And so I think it's that building that trust in your audience is really important as like a first step, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a DJ and a fan of your music, yeah, I agree. I think there is that certain quality music, and both with your own productions and with what I'm hearing from Low Ceiling, and it's nice to see like friends of mine on your label too, who I love Lefty, and I saw he has another track coming out with you guys, and just had another one. And I literally hit this guy up. If you're listening out there and you like house music, pay attention to Lefty, Lefti.
Yep.
Like, I literally hit him up and I'm like, another banger, can you please stop it? Like, every week he's on my Spotify release radar and stuff. And so yeah, I think you guys are doing great. I appreciate the feedback you gave me on my own music. That was certainly helpful too. So I love the standard and the quality of music. I guess to kind of double click on the label stuff, have you kind of found a good cadence right now at this point? Like, do you have, I know you're talking about quality over quantity at this point, but what is your kind of, how do you find the most success with your releases right now? Like, what are some of the things you're doing?
Well, I can talk on the label side. The only argument now for us to sign a track is that we're playing it. That's
Sure.
like the only argument now, and that's like the most important one, because if we don't see each other playing that track, then why do we sign it, right? There's really good submissions that we're getting now, and we're getting a lot of submissions each week, and some of these are great songs. Some of them are really, like, I think they would have huge potential in other genres or in streaming, but we're no longer just like picking them up just to have them. It doesn't make sense, like, and that really helped. And now I think the quality of Low Ceiling, especially in the recent like 2 years, has been very, very high again. So, and that's really important to us, because it's sort of, it showed as well, specifically during the Argentina tour, that was awesome to see. A lot of the artists that previously signed with us on Low Ceiling, they're very proud to be on the label. It's not like easy to get on Low Ceiling, because we're we have these sort of high standards, but it's cool to see that like in these artists' bios, they literally write Low Ceiling as a reference that they released with us, and that's like usually what people do with like Tool Room or Defected or like these legendary labels. To see that happening with our label is it's a great feeling.
Absolutely. So, excuse me, would you play it? When I was part of a label called Top Shelf Disco, there were too many cooks in the kitchen. There were like 5 of us, but that was like the number one question we would ask each other, is like, would you play this in one of your sets? Like, do you want to put this out? And I think that's a really important barometer, and litmus test, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so would we play it? But then from a cadence perspective around like how often we want to put out music? Is that something you discuss, or is it more just like, let's get the tracks first and then we'll figure it out? Like, do you want to release a track every month, every 2 weeks? Like, what have you found from like a marketing perspective as well to be really helpful too? Because again, this is another question a lot of artists ask, is like, how often should I be putting out music, right? There's this whole consistency thing, but what does that really mean? How are you able to successfully reach your fans, not overwhelm them, but also make sure that like you're getting it in front of them too, right?
Yeah, I mean, generally we aim to maybe on average release every 3 weeks at the moment, which is more than each month, but every 2 weeks is a little bit too quick, because you also need to give releases some time. The good thing is we have a pretty high output, sometimes we have a lot of unreleased music, but I think the big important thing right now is that we don't no longer just drop tracks without testing them out first. Like, actually, it's very interesting, but last year when we played in Australia, that was basically to the beginning of the year, which was like now about 1.5 years ago. That's when we tested out a lot of the music that we made. And actually all that music that we played during that tour and tested during that tour is what we then released over the course of the last year, right? And that actually happened again this year, where we returned to Australia. We played again some awesome shows there. And we essentially tested and then refined all of the tracks that we played. And now that is the stuff that's coming out this year. But it's essentially the music that we produced last year. And it's sort of interesting, right? Because we now need to sort of have that buffer to actually create enough content because especially during COVID, like we were releasing tracks that we actually never played live. Because there was no way to play them live. Right?
There's no road test,
at some house parties or something, right?
Yeah.
But there was not really any good place to play them live, so you would just like drop them and then just hope for the best, And but now it's certainly like it's good to have a bit of a buffer, and then to just pick the tracks that fit the vibe, and that just also fit the sound right now, or what people are interested in at the moment. There's certainly trends in the music scene that you can see, and you also don't want to be too late with that, then you just look like, you're just ripping off something, or you're riding like a sort of like a wave that's already, losing all of its traction, so.
Well, I heard there's this new one coming out called Afro House. I don't know. You might want to be like on the ground floor.
It's so 2024.
That's a really, I mean, to have that luxury, I would call it a luxury, right? To be able to be, to Alex's point, of patience, right? Like, to have a track, to be able to give it some testing, to see what the crowd reaction is, to see like, is it, I don't know if you guys are aware of this TV show, Parks and Rec, or this character, Aziz Ansari. He's a comedian. He had this clip in this scene where it's like, is it a banger? And he would have this like scientific model, drawn out on a whiteboard to test, like, I go through this rigorous process to determine, is it a banger? And actually Odd Mob, I think, sampled that and put it in a track a while back. But anyways, okay, so that's your banger barometer, which is good. And then so that's both for your own music and for what you're putting out on Low Ceiling. Is that the process?
Yeah, I mean,
Don't Blink
now,
music. Yeah.
With Low Ceiling, we try to be consistent, and we try to do every week. Just to have like a consistent output. Some weeks we skip. There might always be like a release that falls out, or where we can't fill it up, but that's okay. But yeah, usually we also try now to like sign them quite a bit in advance, so we get to play them out and test drive them, so that we can also give the artist feedback. It's actually interesting. We signed a track from a guy called Hawkeys called Push That System. And when he first sent that to us, I really digged it. Then he sent the final masters, and it sounded very different. And I sort of went back, and he sort of like upped the key. So he actually changed the key, and it was like a higher note. And it actually lost like a lot of like the low end. I felt like so. We returned it back, basically reversed it, released it, and now it's being picked up by like James Hype and played everywhere, and it's doing really well. But I think if he had it his way, he would have released it in his new version. But actually, we like to give feedback. Sometimes Alex is actually mastering some of the tracks on the label. That doesn't happen so often anymore. But we're usually very, very good at giving the artist feedback for the tracks that we believe in. And playing them out is the best way to see if a track actually works, if there's anything that needs to be changed. Also for us.
That's great.
So.
I mean, well, so you are kind of wearing an A&R hat in that sense as well, which is really nice. So like if a track's close, you have a couple notes to make it stronger, then you will generally do that. But if it's not there, you're probably getting so many submissions that you're just like, sorry, it's a pass kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it has to be very close. And it has
Of
to
course.
be foundationally already like 95% there, right?
Absolutely.
Because otherwise it's just not worth the time spending, trying to fix up like a track that just takes too much time, then maybe I would just decline it and leave some feedback on it, and then they can resubmit it maybe like a month later once they fixed it up or something. But yeah. And for that, actually, a shout out to TrackStack, because we switched all of our low ceiling workflow to TrackStack, and it's amazing for labels to like easily receive demos and sort through. It saves me so much time instead of like going through Dropbox links or dead SoundCloud links or attachments. Now it's all in one place, and you can just very quickly listen also with the team and give feedback. It's amazing.
Yeah. Instead of some random guy from Denver sending you a WhatsApp message, right? Shout out TrackStack. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what do you want to ask me? I'm just kidding. I actually, so again, in the spirit of kind of like, the goal of this having you on is to obviously share your successes and, but like, kind of the behind the scenes stuff too, and tips for artists, or like what works for you can be hopefully used for others. Do you guys talk about your goals together, like as a duo, and then maybe as the label, and like actually have like sit down, write down sessions where you're talking about that kind of stuff?
Yep.
Well, I guess the goal is obvious for us to just climb that Everest, and to be in a summit at some point. But to be honest, we're not really obsessed with that idea. It's just it's good to have this like the general goal, but we're not. To be honest, we're not really obsessed with it. We're not like how to put this in the words. We're still living our life here. We're
Sure.
enjoying life. We're not like completely put like narrow vision into it. We're just in a relaxed mode. We enjoy what we're doing. We enjoy playing shows, enjoy making music. To hang out together, travel together. So. It just goes smoothly, and just better and better. We like this year we're so proud of ourselves because we put so much work in the studio. We tested out, it sounds amazing. We're so confident in the music we're gonna put out this year, and so on. So we're quite strong.
Yep. Yeah, we do have these like sessions where we sit down, and that usually happens often when we travel together, and we sort of reflect on like what is the goal, where do we want to go this year, like what and to be fair, oftentimes I think like, hey, we should actually record this because it's so much interesting conversations there. Like actually just live streaming that process of like debunking certain things, or like seeing just from the eyes of the artist, like the sort of the thought process behind decisions is interesting. But usually, yeah, we're very aligned on where we want to head, what we want to target. Of course, we make targets of like, who do we want to send our music to, which labels, which artists, where do we, who do we want to associate with more this year, maybe which labels worked out for us in the past that we want to send music to again, maybe which ones didn't work out so well, and like it doesn't make sense for us to sign with them again at the moment, because maybe also our sound developed, and and also just like which ones are like the next tracks that we want to put out. Maybe do we have a target of like a certain territory that we want to tour in? Last year, the focus there was definitely on Argentina.
Do you want to share the different strengths and weaknesses of each of you? And don't blink.
Sure.
That's the other
All right.
thing, that he's more like a public speaker than I'm more man in behind. So we kind of playing those perfectly roles. So we kind of complete each other, I guess, in a way. So
it's like the engineer and the executive. Is that a fair way to look at it?
No, fair. I mean, I'm generally a bit more extrovert than Alex is, so it's easier for me to be open and social. But it works super well, right? I mean,
I'm sure when you get Alex, at a crazy party, somewhere in Ibiza, things.
You should see me.
Well, hopefully soon. I mean, we've talked about ADE, in October. So at some point, maybe I'll get to meet you guys in person there.
That'd be great. Yes, let's do it.
Yes, absolutely. But just to go back to the goal setting stuff, I think it's really healthy, Alex, you call out not obsessing, right? That is a healthy call out, I believe, because it is, in my opinion, it's important to have these things written down or to be aware of them, but not to like spend every waking moment being like, I'm not hitting my goals. You also mentioned the Everest thing. I'm curious, kind of like what is your Everest, right? Like specifically, can you name some of those things?
Well, I would say it's just playing all those big festival thing like ADC or Coachella. That's like pretty Everest for us, you know.
Okay.
I cannot even see further than this. So just would be amazing just to play those shows, be on the stage and just, you know, play our music. You know, we so believe in our music and we just want to see and we want to kind of show that's our album. It's called Statement. That's kind of our statement. We so believe in what we're doing and we really want to see it and share it with the people there. And it's not like narcissistic goals that just to be there and just have all those crazy videos being on the stage. It's just really be there and just, you know, we've worked so hard for this and just share that music which we made over the years. And, you know, we know how it works and we know it's going to work out really well. So that would be really satisfying for us, I guess. Well, at least for me. I don't know. What's your goal?
No, 100%. I think generally we make music for the dance floor, right? And I don't think there would always be the faster track of trying to get the big hit, right? So for us, it's more like a steady grind, you know? Like we keep putting out tracks and it keeps climbing. And, you know, generally now, definitely the bigger shows, I think selling tickets is like a really difficult thing. So having a sold out tour in Argentina was a really great sign. It's like, hey, people believe in us. They love our music. It's actually very interesting to see because it's every fan that we interact with doing shows, they all have different favorite songs of us. And that's actually very interesting, you know, because if you had that one big hit, then everyone's just like, oh yeah, play that track, you know. But with us, it's very different, you know. And actually, sometimes I even ask, you know, the promoters, like, hey, what songs of us do you like? Like, because there's quite a few sides of Don't Blink. It's just very interesting to see, like, which one are they like the biggest fans of, you know. But yeah, I would say that our shows now are literally containing like 80 to 90% our own music. It's like our own production and then some of the new low ceiling releases and then maybe some of the best tracks that we found in the last couple of months or maybe new promos that we received. But like it's very much our own crafted like show. And that is super, you know, rewarding to be up on stage, play only our own music and people really love it. And I think that's the difference. I think our music is meant for the dance floor. It's relentless. It's fun. It's not just that you need to be in a certain state or like under a certain substance to make it fun. You know, I think everyone can enjoy a good Don't Blink set. So I think we want to keep growing that, you know, and keep growing sort of awareness of this. You know, it's I think people that know us for longer, they always wonder why not more people. You know, why not more people really pick up on us? But you know, it's an organic process. You know, we're growing as we go, right? So,
yeah, you might just have to move to the U.S. for a year, and you know, then you'll start playing EDC and Coachella. Well, you're in with Insomniac, right? Because you've released on In Rotation, so you know, pull on that string a little bit. So, no, that's super inspiring. Thank you for that. And I love that you always plug your motto too, right? The relentless grooves and all that. It's part of your label, part of your brand. I mean, you got to, right? Yeah. And I think too, I picked up on the piece around the confidence part is also something where in the artist, you know, journey, the hero's journey, the artist journey, you're in the beginning trying to find your sound, trying to figure out what works, trying to figure out, you know, and then the artist that is able to successfully unlock what their thing is and what their sound is, they have this confidence. I saw an interview with Dom Dollar recently where he kind of said the same thing. He's like, I'm really confident in what I'm putting out right now. And he has a good reason to be, right? So with you guys, I think it's the same thing. It's like, every song I've heard from you, you know, like when I'm playing on my decks and I send you a screenshot of one of your tracks, you know, like that stuff is high energy and it's great. And you know, I think it's just a matter of like getting more people to know about you. You know, have you talked about that piece at all? Like how to, you know, you talk about new markets and new fans and things like that, but Are there things that you're trying maybe that are new that you haven't tried before to expand at all, or thinking about trying, or things that didn't work at all?
Yeah, there's plenty.
Tell us what not to do.
Well, I think experimenting is good to do. So for instance, now what we're trying with every release is we set, for example, a budget of, let's say, $500 to promote the release. But then the question is where to even put that money, right? Like, do you put it all into Instagram ads? Do you put it into SubmitHub? Do you put it into like some playlist pitching tool? Do you put it into like creators for creator marketing? Like, there's a lot of like questions, right? So generally now we're experimenting and always trying to like try different platforms and then see what sticks, and the ones that do well we just continue with, and that's been helpful. It's been helpful growing on Spotify. It's been helpful growing on social media, a little bit. But sort of every artist I think needs to experiment with that themselves to see what works for them, right? Because maybe in our sound certain platforms don't really work, but if you're like a bit more, on the whatever, in some other way, on a more mainstream side or even more underground, maybe then it would work, right? I think what was very important for us to understand was that with Don't Blink, we are always in this like one realm, which is sort of like our groove. And then we can actually be very creative within that, right? So the new sound that we're going in, we are super confident in. All the tracks sound amazing. Other artists are telling us that they're using our tracks as reference for like how their stuff should sound. That's a big compliment. That means that our stuff is true and tested on a dance floor, and they use that as a reference material. If you A/B with a Don't Blink track, that's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then production wise, I think there's always new things to try. Some things work, some things don't. Some plugins work, some plugins don't, right? Aleks is very good at literally buying every single controller there is and then hanging them on his wall.
I'm gonna build a village house like when I'm gonna retire from all those controls.
Yeah.
But we actually we not stick to one kind of style, so our music quite diverse. So we can just fill out the whole show with our music, like starting from like a groovy stuff, going to more harder, faster, and then banging and coming back. So we just can fill in our show just playing with our tracks, and that's great. That was the goal. We're not like sticking just to one particular sound and go with that. So we just make music for fun. How would we just play them in a show, and from which point we would start? We're always ready. We can just take over from any DJs and getting somewhere else. So in our catalog, there's, I don't know, maybe hundreds of tracks. We just can, it's a tools, and we know the tools, and we know those tools working. So we're quite confident and then it's never been a show where we were like failed or something. It's always been fun. It's always works, and then we've always been happy, and people are happy. So we're quite confident in that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a small nuance too, I think, where it's like in the journey of a set, like you produce music that can fit in any part of that journey. And then like you mentioned, if you're taking over from an opening DJ or something, it sounds like you're able to just confidently plug in, play a song that mixes in well, and then just start at any point, which is great. And the experimentation to kind of the marketing side of things, which is kind of what I was getting at, is an open-mindedness to try things out and to see what works, and to very obviously keep going with the stuff that does work and stop doing the stuff that doesn't work, and then try something new. Because again, you'd be surprised, but a lot of the people I talk to are like, either they've tried something and they didn't give it enough time and they said it's not working, or they're so close-minded where they're not actually giving things a shot, and things change. And you're in technology, Oskar, so it's like, well, you're both in technology, but like we call it the technology treadmill, right? Like there's always improvements, there's always new things coming out. The scene this year isn't the same as the scene last year. So I think those are really important pieces to call out. When it comes to a live set, how do you guys figure that out? Is it one for one, B to B? Is it like I got the next track and you're like, okay, go with it? Like, is it the same kind of process, as it is in the studio or with everything else you do? Or how does the flow work on the stage? I know you've been doing it a long time at this point, but
Yeah, we're very good playing back to back now, I think. We've been doing it for like 10 plus years, so we know each other's sound, we know the way that we mix. We usually sit down, I would say, a couple of hours before in the evening and just go through new music, playing some tracks. But we also like to surprise each other to some degree during the sets.
Nice.
Maybe don't reveal like a couple of the tracks and then just play them out. Have a little bit of like the challenge aspect of it. It's like, hey, look what I found. And then Alex puts like an absolute
What
bang,
is
and I'm
that?
like, freak, how do I even follow up on this, you know?
Yeah.
So, but that's fun. And then generally, we know all of our own tracks, right? So we know
Sure.
what's true and trusted. We usually want to play what's coming up, you know, to especially get some content of the up and coming stuff. We're also most excited to play unreleased music because that's stuff that no one has heard of before, and we want to test it out. And the shows really help to take sort of mental notes of also what can be improved in a song, right? Actually, usually the first show of a tour, then immediately like afterwards we're fixing up a couple of tracks, you know, maybe the breakdown was a bit too long, maybe some sound was too sharp or too loud or whatever, and then you can only fix that once you play that stuff out, right? So it's super fun to play together and you know, get into a rhythm, and you know, and also just to tour and travel together, and you know, to walk around and discover cities, you know.
And you do. There are times where you're not together, correct? So are there ever times where you're booking two dates in the same day, and it's two gigs in the same day across the world? You know, are you doing any of that stuff yet?
I think it did happen when you played in Thailand and I played in Europe. It did happen before, but usually we like to play together. Like
Sure.
we strive for. So, for example, Australia is pretty close by, so usually we're able to make that happen. Like Argentina now, that was like a 36-hour flight, and the flights are super expensive. Their budgets are not that high at the moment, so it was just like it made more economical sense for me to go there first. But now that we scouted it out, there's always like, you know, the opportunity to come back. The problem is once we play together somewhere, you can never go back. Like you basically always have to play together.
Sure.
That's sort of we experienced that before, where I played solo, then we played together, and then I tried to play solo again, and everyone's just like, "Where's Alex?" It's like, damn, you know, like once you play together somewhere, I think you're locked in. You always have to play together there.
Yeah. I do think there is that kind of weird maybe expectation where you're expecting to see a duo and you only see one person, or I don't know, maybe sometimes like, so, you know, there's that confusion about people might think like you're just one person, and then there's two of you, you know? So yeah, that's an interesting piece. You never just want to hog the decks and be like, move over the next hour. Never any of that.
What usually happens is more that like maybe at the end of a set or something like this, if one of us wants to keep going, you know, then the other one just takes like a chiller and just like hangs out or whatever. But that happens mostly more towards like the after hours, you know.
Sure. And
Is that time when you went to dance floor during the set in Thailand?
Yep, that was great.
yeah,
he was crushing it so hard. I was just on the dance floor having a good time.
Yeah,
it was great.
Or maybe one of you has a few too many cocktails or something, and it's like, yeah.
Oh, that's also gonna happen. Yeah, it's that we have each other's back, but unfortunately, one time happened with both quite fucked up. And that was tough. Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, it comes to territory sometimes. Cool. Well, do you have advice for the young kids out there? You know, like everyone's a DJ now. It's crazy how this. I started DJing when I was 15 years. You know, 15. This exclusive thing, and now everybody's in it. You know, if you could, I guess there's that question. Like, if you were starting today, you know, like what advice would you give for aspiring DJs and producers?
You go with the advice, and I just want to spread
wisdom.
If you're a resident DJ and then the headliner playing after you, don't play headliners tracks. It happens with us all the time, you know.
Really?
And it's quite a little. I mean, it's a piss take, you know. You should not do that. I know some people can get carried away with that, but you have to be a little bit, you know, in the zone. You have to be aware that there's a headliner. Also, like, keep the tempo a little bit lower. It's always happening with us. I don't know, maybe with other DJs, also happening. they're getting so carried away that as if they just forget that they are warming up DJs. I mean, all the DJs want to be headliners. I understand. It's so tempting to play all the bangers, right? And that makes the warm-up DJ's tough job. You have to, you know, a little bit, you know, be limit yourself with that. But with us, people just losing control because they know that we can't just go full out, and they're trying to maybe impress us before our set, right? And then they're just playing our tracks, and then it makes bad impression, and it's, you know, it's kind of killing the vibe for us, you know.
That
so
is like,
just don't do that.
That is like DJ 101. Like, don't play the headliner's tracks. Like, where has this been happening? Like, all around the world?
But it's just
or
happening.
Like...
It's unspoken rule, but it just happening all the time.
It happens plenty to us. Maybe our music is a bit too popular. I don't know.
It's kind of a weird compliment, but I remember like back in the early days too, like DJs used to have do not playlists. Like they would like give, it was part of their rider or something where they'd give it to the opening DJ. You can't play these songs, even though they're not the headliner's songs, but they're going to play them in their set or something. I don't know. Very strange.
Yeah.
Where has this been happening all over the place, or specific areas of the world, or?
It happened recently in Australia. It happened in Thailand. It happens. You know, It happens quite frequently. It's annoying because like already, you know, some start playing stuff from the label, from low ceiling, and then we're still like okay with it. You know, it's like fine. But then some really go all out, you know, in tempo, in loudness, in everything. And it's a bit like, okay, you know, we traveled like a far to come here to play this show. And also, you know, people are mostly there to see us in a way, right? Like to build up to that moment. We were both resident DJs before. I actually warmed up in the venue that I played, and for plenty of great artists, from Chris Lake to Benny Benassi to a bunch of guys. And you need to sort of like really find the perfect balance where you build the tension in a room without giving it all away, right? And then in that moment, ideally, the headliner can just start with anything and like the room will explode. That's a really good warm-up DJ. And it's actually probably a tougher job than to be a headliner to some degree in certain venues.
Yeah, I agree, because it sets the tempo of the whole night, right? So the opening DJ has a very important role in the whole thing, right? The headliner ideally is coming in with a full dance floor and they could just do whatever they want, but like to get people moving early and get that energy going is a really special thing. And the fact that you guys have come up as those openers and now you're the headliners is it's a fun little switcheroo, right? And now you can be the ones being like,
and also doing the warm-up sets is usually when the club makes the most money. Actually, that's when the people buy the most drinks, right? If you're playing way too slow, then people are like, and then they don't go really into the vibe, and then they maybe like hold back on drinks or whatever. And if you go all out already, then people are exhausted early, so they go home early, right? So it's like very much like also in the interest of the venue, you know, for the resident DJs or the warm-up DJs to like find the exact perfect balance. It's a tough job, you know.
That's really
you know, enough riding on the warm-up, guys. I think generally if you're building a career, I can understand, you know, if artists try to like position themselves in the center, you know, and like really like draw the attention, and that's all fair in game, you know. I would say as an advice that if you were to start like today, is you first like, okay, music production is super important now. I think it's very rare nowadays that someone just becomes an internationally touring DJ without having a catalog and a repertoire of music, right? So first, I mean, get the basic skills, like probably start with Ableton courses online or something like this. There's plenty of resources out there. I mean, we use Bitwig, but probably it's not like highly recommendable to people at the moment because there's simply like not so many resources out there like there are for Ableton. We love it, and we've been using it for like more than half a decade at this point, you know, and it's every single Don't Blink track was produced in Bitwig. But you know, I think Ableton probably right now has the biggest mainstream appeal. Start with that, and then start maybe by literally just copying other people's tracks to see how close you can get in sound to what they are doing, where you want to be, you know. And then once you get that down, you know, and you know sort of how to get your sound up there, then you need to discover who you are, right? Discover your own identity, which is super difficult for some artists, you know, because it's tempting to just copy what's trending, right? It's tempting to just make another track that's already in a Beatport top 10, right? Or to use the same sounds. I mean, we also look a little bit at trends that are happening, just like whose sounds that we hear in tracks, but we always give it our own flair, our own spin, just like maybe we just take the idea of it, the essence of it, but then do something completely different with it, right? And that's a cool flip that then makes it unique to us, right? I understand that defining that signature is probably the hardest part for any artist, but I think that takes time, it takes courage, and also don't be afraid to start releasing music. There's a lot of like producers that just like they're hogging what they produce because they always think they can do better. But yeah, we can do better. If we listen to tracks that we produced a couple of years ago, now there's definitely notes of how they could be improved probably, because you just learn more. You just like, there's tracks that now are out on some pretty big labels even that I think would definitely be great if we were able to remaster them or something, just so they make them feel more up to date again with like how stuff is supposed to sound today. I mean, sound systems have improved plenty as well, You don't no longer need to make your music sound so aggressive, so sharp, so like clicky, It's actually like the rounder sound is still like now with today's sound system, it feels so full and banging still that there's no need to make it so harsh anymore, right? So I think generally, yeah, I think put out tracks, start to build a following, start to get feedback, collaborate with other artists, reach out, champion the ones that like support you, if someone like puts your tracks in their playlist, if someone supports you, if there's some like, if someone uses your music in their TikTok or Instagram reels, like give them a shout out, or repost it or get in touch with them, because these are like really important like connections at the beginning, and that's how you build a network, a support network, of people that you resonate with, and then, grow maybe a community of other artists in your realm, that, we're in touch with a lot of artists, also now a bunch that are much bigger than us. But if we hadn't reached out to them initially a couple of years ago when they were still up and coming as well, there's no chance that we would have those contacts today, right? Because if you try to send John Summit a message today, it's very tough. This guy probably receives hundreds of messages each day. It just doesn't stand out anymore. But if you already talk with him and you were there along his way of growing, there's a chance that he remembers, and he wants you to be part of that success too, So maybe look out for like people that you think are up and coming who are hot, and reach out to them early, see if you can collaborate with them, see if you can work on a remix for them or whatever it is, right? And just take chances, and I think just put out your music in a lot of ways. That's
well, you just wrote the book there, so I don't think anyone else needs to hear anything else from you. I mean, that was CEO level knowledge right there. That was the step-by-step, Oscar's step-by-step checklist on how to become a successful artist. It's actually funny you mentioned Summit, because I was gonna mention him in my intro that you guys remixed him before he was John Summit that we know today. But I feel like he's a man of the people. Are you guys still in touch, or
Yeah, it's funny because we lost touch a little bit, and then I went back and we were talking so much on Facebook, funnily enough, before. Like he was always sending us like unreleased stuff, and we were going back and forth talking also about a potential collab back then. And he was definitely more in like the more dance floor club, like tech house vibe back then. And now he obviously blew out of proportion for us. I mean, we did a remix for him. He sent us a vocal, and that ended up just being like a free download in the end. But he was just telling us just to put it out for free. And we're sending him music, whatever resonates with him, we'd be happy, But it's definitely not like a everyday contact anymore. It's like you message him and hope that he sees it, right? But that's just how it goes. They are super busy, and if you organize arena shows with massive productions and songwriting sessions for a new album and all these things, I understand that like this production duo from Bali is maybe not on your priority list right now, which is completely understandable. So I think this is also a very important thing for new artists to understand, and any artist of any size. Don't let no's discourage you. Like, it's because you will get no's every day, every week. Is you have to almost like seek out the no's. You almost have to reach out to 10 people to get 9 no's so that you can get 1 yes. If you're afraid of that rejection at the beginning, you will fail immediately, right? Like I heard a story that actually Peggy Goo, her Na 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 song was actually remixed by Calvin Harris, and their team told Calvin Harris no, that they don't want to put that out. And that's like one of the biggest artists in the world getting a big rejection there. And so even he gets a no sometimes, you know, and that's fine, you know, but they have their agenda and they have the vibe that they want to go for, and Calvin Harris is his, you know, and that's maybe it's not compatible all the time, you know.
Yeah, so. Well, there's a famous story about him getting rejected from, I think, Defected back in the day or something like that, and there was like a little note that was like, "Keep trying," you know, whatever. But I mean,
well, but it worked out for him no matter what, right? So
I used to say this because I came from like a tech sales background, you know, but like we're in the business of hearing no, right? And it's hard. I mean, being an artist is hard, and the artist. A lot of artists in general are a certain type of way, certain type of personalities, a lot of sensitivities and stuff and that. So it's sometimes easier said than done. I mean, shout out my girlfriend right now. We're working on some stuff in her personal life where I'm like, hey, you know, like we got to get comfortable with some of these things as we're trying to evolve what's happening. Right. So yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. That's a mental toughness one. There's a lot of mental components of this world that we live in and everything we do. But I appreciate the advice there. That was a lot of really, really good nuggets. I have plenty more questions. I know we're getting out of time here. You guys have probably a busy day to get to. I mean, you can pick and choose here. I'd love to hear maybe a funny story from the road that you might want to share. I'd also love to hear like where you love playing the most and, you know, where you're hoping to get to that you've never been. Those are 3 different questions. You can cherry pick them if you want.
Wow.
Well, I would love to play in Amsterdam. I think that's my favorite city in the world. Happens that we didn't play there that often, so I would love to have gigs there because I would love to. Go there.
This year, on my birthday, is the last day of ADE, so let's work on lining you guys up for a gig on my birthday. I'll be your opening DJ. I won't play your music. And see, we've come full circle now.
Tired.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
We'll talk about that offline.
We did our first low ceiling event in Miami this year. We might work on one for ADE. We'll see if that comes together. Amsterdam is always fun. I would say, so there was a funny story on the road, and then there was also
funny
the
road
places
story,
that we like to
favorite place.
Yeah. I think favorite place has to be Koh Phangan still. It's just Thailand. We go to back there like probably 2 times a year at the moment, sometimes even more. Our good friend Vocabulary Pasha, he's running Holy Stone there. We're playing some amazing gigs. The crowd is just the best. It's like a safe place to try out music, and everyone supports you, and it's very awesome. Yeah,
man.
And the weather is awesome. The food is great. They legalized weed. There's so many ups now to Thailand. It's amazing.
Just get a bucket and a blunt, and you're good to go. Yeah, I love Thailand. I watched the video. I think it was
the bucket people. We call them bucket people. The tourists that are running around.
The bucket people. Yeah, you're playing a waterfall party there. I think I was watching recently, and yeah, great stuff. Yep. I appreciate it. So yeah, just plug what's next. What's coming up for Don't Blink? What's coming up for Low Ceiling? Tell the people what they need to know. And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so we got a couple of releases coming up, as always. The next one is Within the Screen. Might be out by the time you see this. It's on Low Ceiling. It's on our own label. Very cool track. Showing a little bit more like the new sound that we're going into. A bit of a darker vibe, but it's super cool. We have another one coming up on the Myth of Nix called Let's Get Together. It's a great follow-up of You Know What I Like, which was like a really big success for us beginning of this year that did super well. I think it was actually #1 tech house or something like this. And yeah, really, really great. So super excited. We love to work with the Myth of Nix. They have a great team. We're going to be playing Fusion Festival in Germany this summer. We're super pumped about this. This is probably maybe the biggest festival in Germany. Certainly the biggest like in the indie techno realm. It's like, very special place to play, and we have an awesome set time, 8 p.m. on a Friday. So we're super stoked about this. So that's a huge one, and we're gonna be in Europe all summer. So working on some more shows there, and and you should definitely watch the sets that we put out on our YouTube channel to get a glimpse of the new vibes that we're going for and the new tracks that are coming up. Yeah.
And basically, this year is all covered already by releases. So we made enough of music to release this year and maybe at the beginning of next year. And we keep working. We have so much stuff to put out. And then, we're super confident, as I said, with our new recent releases and music we made. So they all tested. We have a great studio now and with a great sound system there. So we're really confident in sound, how it sounds and how it works. So, yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm coming to Bali. I'm coming to Germany. I'm coming to Amsterdam. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna be your new best friend, whether you like it or not. So thank
Come
you
out,
guys.
man.
Yeah.
to have you.
Fusion Fest looks great. Yeah, that looks awesome. Well, thank you guys. Congratulations on all the success. Thank you for being here and giving us your time and sharing your wisdom with everybody. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. I'm looking forward to to just being a fly on the wall for all of this. So thank you so much, everybody out there. Check out Don't Blink. Check out Low Ceiling. Check out all the stuff they got. Check out their music. There's too much. There's a lot there. So thank you so much. This has been the Racket House podcast. We'll catch you next time. Oh, wait, we have to do our photo. We have to do a quick photo.
Photo.
For the camera,
put this
right?
mic away. My arm is, I was getting sore. Let's go. I put the mic down.
I caught myself wrapping up. Yeah, there you go. All right. So let's see if we're on the same level here. Get the bushes looking good. Yeah. All right. 3, 2, 1. Woo! All right. This has been the Racket House podcast. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
See you later.
Woo!